I'm Alex Larson, dietitian, Ironman finisher, and host of Endurance Eats, the podcast where we break down the science of endurance nutrition and turn it into clear, practical nutrition advice to revolutionize how you think about fueling your body. So grab a seat, or keep moving if you're out training, and let's get started. Hey there, friends. Welcome back to the Endurance Eats podcast. Today, we're diving into something that athletes often skip, and it's absolutely essential if you want to create consistency with your nutrition and feel your best every day. We're talking about mindset shifts, those powerful behind-the-scenes tweaks to how we think about food that can make all the difference in how we feel, perform, and even how we enjoy our food. But honestly, it doesn't matter if you know exactly how you should be eating. It's really hard to actually do it if you don't have the right mindset. If you've ever found yourself struggling to maintain energy, feel stressed over your food choices, or unsure how to balance your performance goals with a positive relationship with food, this is the episode for you. Because the truth is, we aren't robots. Nutrition isn't just about what's on our plate, it's also about how you approach it. And by making a few key mindset shifts, it will be so much easier to take your endurance nutrition to the next level with more confidence and way less stress. Today, I'll be walking you through 4 powerful mindset shifts that I see as the most common ones that I help our one-on-one athletes through. This is where we can make a real difference for you to feel stronger, more energized, and truly enjoy that transformational nutrition journey. So let's dive in. Mindset shift number 1 is going to be going from a restriction mindset to a fueling mindset. The diet culture for the past 30 plus years has very much conditioned our minds to associating eating healthy with cutting out specific ingredients, eliminating certain foods, or even restricting entire food groups from our diet. Most common examples that come to my mind are sugar, gluten, dairy, red meat, processed food, fruit, and then just carbs in general. Now, some of these things, like if you have celiac disease or a dairy allergy, then yes, you are going to need to cut gluten or dairy from your diet respectively. But if you're going to do it just because it's trendy or being seen as the healthy thing, I would reconsider that. There are even situations where I have seen individuals using diets such as intermittent fasting or even vegan or vegetarian diets as a socially acceptable way for them to have a more restrictive, disordered eating habit. And restriction often will backfire, especially for endurance athletes, because it leads to decreased energy levels. It increases your risk for injuries. It will slow recovery from your training, and then you end up dealing with a lot more muscle fatigue, tiredness, and soreness. Restriction is also really tough mentally. When we tell ourselves we can't have something, it often makes us want to have it even more. So then we kind of obsess about it. And that restrictive mindset is often not very sustainable. It's not something that people are able to do long term. And really, what's the point in doing all of that work if it's only going to produce temporary results? Instead of looking to restrict, I encourage finding ways to enhance your nutrition. What can you add to your day that will support your needs and your goals better? For example, one of my favorite places to enhance nutrition is at breakfast. It's a magical meal because the majority of the athletes I work with are barely eating any breakfast. And when they transform their morning routine to include anywhere from 20 to 30 plus grams of protein with some carbohydrates, some healthy fats, maybe some micronutrients through fruits and or vegetables, they all of a sudden find that they don't need to graze throughout the entire day. They aren't binging in the evening anymore on anything and everything in their kitchen. Initially, there is some fear. I hear this all the time. There's concern that when we make that change to eat more earlier on in the day and continue to binge in the evening, you will see some really rapid weight gain. You're really going to go overboard on the food and calories. I get that fear. I hear you, but in my experience, that doesn't happen because You're just not hungry in the evening. You're satisfied because your body already got what it needed earlier on in the day. You're not going into that later part in the evening with a massive deficit that your body's trying to catch up on. I had a triathlete who I worked with in 2024. He found that as long as he had a really great breakfast in the morning, it set him up for an amazing day. He had better energy levels, mental focus, his workout quality was greatly improved. He made better food choices throughout the rest of the day. But if he didn't have that foundational morning meal, the rest of the day was a struggle. To start taking action with this mindset, I would encourage you to create a list of nutrient-rich foods that you want to start adding to your meals and snacks. And make sure that list is foods that you actually enjoy. So if you add kale to that list and you absolutely can't stand kale, don't add it. I'm using kale as an example because I have yet to really find a way that I enjoy kale. It's just not my jam, but I use spinach a lot instead as an alternative. It's like my go-to dark leafy green. So pick a couple items from that list, not all of them, just a couple, and plan where in your week you're going to incorporate them. Over time, those items will become much more standard and staple to your eating pattern. So don't think about restriction. Think about what you can add to your day to enhance it. All right, our second mindset shift is focusing on progress over perfection. Setting that expectation that your diet has to be perfect often leads to rigid rules that are absolutely impossible to follow. This is also called the all or nothing mindset, where you're either 100% in with no flexibility, or you've just done nothing at all and your eating pattern is just a free-for-all. This is a really hard mindset to break out of. We assume that the only way that we're going to see results is with dramatic changes, and dramatic changes rarely work with our food choices and eating habits because our bodies hate change. When we look at human psychology, we generally have an aversion to change because it feels disruptive. It feels uncomfortable. So our body is hardwired to resist change. There's comfort in our established behaviors and patterns. So how do we find success? How do we go about making changes to our food behaviors and eating patterns? We make small, consistent improvements. Making a small, minor change with your nutrition is going to feel much less overwhelming to your body. And being able to do that small change consistently long-term is going to have a much bigger impact than trying to temporarily eat perfectly. It's the small little changes over time that will give you the best gains. So what are some little things that you can do? Adding additional carbs to your pre-workout snack routine. Having an intentional meal or snack after your workout to really kickstart your recovery. Just drinking more fluids throughout the day, staying more hydrated. Including an additional serving of vegetables during the week. Adding another protein source to your current breakfast routine. Creating a set grocery shopping schedule so you'll stay restocked on groceries, because if you're going to eat better, you have to actually have the food in your house. Set one nutrition goal for yourself this week. Something you're not currently doing very well, but the change itself would be incredibly easy for you to implement. After a couple weeks or so, reevaluate. Once that change starts to feel a little bit more solid and routine, you can add in another new easy goal and build on that original one. It's all about the progress, not the perfection, which is a really great transition to our third mindset shift. Prioritizing long-term gains over short-term fixes. No more quick fixes or rapid body comp changes. We want to focus on the sustainable improvements. Don't put a deadline on your nutrition goals. The crash diets, extreme changes, they compromise your performance and your recovery, and they can lead to burnout. When you look at someone sharing their success story on social media, often the only thing that we see is the before, a few seconds of them maybe eating or working out, and then the after. It takes a lot of time and dedication to see results and have that transformation happen, but you don't see that when you see other people's before and after videos or pictures on the internet or in the media. Anytime that I see these types of stories online, instead of comparing my progress as an athlete to them, my mantra that I often say to this person that I don't know that's on the internet, I say, wow, look at all of the time and work and dedication that they put into themselves to see that transformation happen. In order for athletes to experience their own transformation, the focus needs to shift on building sustainable long-term habits, building a routine, trusting the cumulative effect over time. A female triathlete I worked with a couple years ago when she was training for her first Ironman. It was midsummer. She was in peak training. She was doing 70.3s to help prep for that full distance race that was in the fall. And I remember her saying just how thankful that she was that she decided to work with a dietitian, because I really helped her learn to stay consistent with her nutrition. Historically, she had found herself bouncing all over the place with different nutrition tactics, and she never ended up seeing any results because she never gave it enough time to actually work. So just because you've been doing something for a few days or even a few weeks and you aren't seeing any progress, that doesn't mean it's not working. You can track progress. I think that's certainly a great thing to do. Make notes on a weekly or monthly basis on what wins you're seeing. But no matter, and like, no matter how small they are or big they are, just be prepared that the results, they're going to take time. And be prepared for setbacks. Don't let them derail you and make you want to give up. The more you practice, the easier it gets and the better results that you will see. And once you see results, we also want to make sure that you can easily maintain them. If you're really struggling with doing this on your own, then work with a professional. That's what we're here to do, is help you navigate that without that confusion and frustration. We want to offer clarity and support and accountability to get you to where you need to be. Now, mindset shift number 4, our final shift here, is viewing food as an ally and not the enemy. The key thought here is cultivating that positive relationship with food as something that works with you and not against you. For decades, diet culture and the media messaging has been around eating less calories. Sugar is evil. Processed food is bad. Vegetables are good. Heck, my oldest child told me recently that when he was a grown-up, he was going to eat healthy. And I asked him what healthy meant. I was like, hey, bud, what does healthy mean to you? And he said, no sugar. I'm not going to eat any sugar when I'm a grown-up, and I'm going to eat vegetables. This is the messaging that he's heard through school, because I certainly promise you that that is not something that we have said at home. Fearing food and viewing food as bad or forbidden often leads to restrictive eating, food guilt, and ultimately lack of enjoyment when eating. And food is amazing. It breaks my heart that people avoid foods out of fear, and that restriction leads to nutrient deficiencies and health issues. Food is not the enemy. It is your most valuable asset as an athlete. It is the key to fueling your workouts, to recovering from your training quickly and efficiently. It's key to you feeling your strongest, healthiest self. Changing your perspective on food doesn't just improve your physical health. There are mental benefits too that I often see with the athletes that I work with. There's less stress around eating. Letting go of the rigid rules and focus on just choosing foods that feel good for your body and your training. Like, let's alleviate that stress, because we already have enough stress in our life. And instead of second guessing your food choices and feeling guilt or worry, you'll start to feel empowered and more free with your food choices. I had a cyclist who worked with me this summer, fall time of 2024. And when we first started working together, he had such negative things to say about himself and his food choices. His tone of voice to me was giving off feelings of like disgust with himself and feeling simply defeated. Having picked up on this, I was very, very determined to help him look at all food as a good thing. And it was a transformative experience for him to go from that disgust to feeling proud about how he ate and feeling empowered with his food choices. Let's recap the 4 mindset shifts. Shift number 1 is going from a restrictive mindset to a fueling mindset. The second is shifting from perfectionist to progress. Shift number 3 is prioritizing long-term gains over short-term fixes. And number 4 is viewing food as an ally, not the enemy. When you're ready, I encourage you to select one of these to work on. See how it goes. I'd love to hear your thoughts. What's your biggest takeaway from today's episode? Reach out to me on social media at Alex Larson Nutrition. Let's keep this conversation going. And I want to thank you again for joining me for another episode of the Endurance Eats podcast. Please make sure to tap that follow button, leave a review. Your support means so much to this very small women-led business over here. And I will see you soon in the next episode.